Your Wales phone in.
BBC Radio Wales.
So, hope you're well. The lines are open. 03700 100 110. Text 81012. Email via the website, bbc.co.uk/Radio Wales. You can also send me a tweet via Twitter, @JasonPhoneIn. Also coming up today, the Chancellor George Osborne has hit the banks with a £800 million tax raid. So with the banks now putting much needed money into the coffers, is it time to lay off the bankers and let them get on with the recovery? Well, many of you call this programme. You tell me how much you despise the City of London and the bankers because of the bonus culture. But now they're contributing to the tune of 800 million. Have you changed your tune? So should we just let the banks get on with making money like in any competitive capitalist economy? Let them do business as they see fit. They are private companies after all. So is it time to stop the banker bashing? 03700 100 110 to have your say on the banks. First today, the English Defence League, the group against what they describe as the Islamification of Great Britain, could be about to enter British politics. The EDL has told this programme that they are thinking of becoming a political party. So would you vote for the EDL? The number to call, 03700 100 110. Let's talk to Tommy Robinson, who's co-leader of the English Defence League. Mr Robinson, good afternoon to you, so welcome.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Welcome to the programme. Yeah, what are your political ambitions, Tommy?
Not sure, to be honest. When I was asked that question yesterday, I just said we're evolving. I hope after hearing David Cameron's speech, I hope he's going to put words into action. He's going to do something, because David Cameron, before he became Prime Minister, spoke about the Military Covenant Law, which is a 400-year-old law which demands respect between the British public and our military. And that's being broken on a weekly basis. Yeah, it's a law. He spoke about that. He hasn't done anything about it. He spoke about the Human Rights Law, which he said had changed, that illegal immigrants are not given asylum here after murdering British people, which he hasn't done anything about that. If you know about that little Amy Houston, the young girl who was killed by the asylum seeker up in Blackburn, he hasn't done anything about that. But what we're saying is we hope that they are going to put words into action and do something. So we don't want to become a political party. We just want the top politicians that are there to do their job, protect the British public, protect our freedoms, protect our way of life, protect our culture. Don't just sit back while it gets steamrolled over, which is what we're seeing going on across this country.
Okay. So if no other political party does that and defends...
We may have to evolve into one. We may have to. We've evolved in the last 2 years. We're now seeing the purity come with our organisation. We're becoming a more credible organisation. Our last 4 demonstrations, we've had zero violence at, zero trouble. We've been commended by the police, congratulated by the police, and we're seeing ourselves become a more mainstream party, and we're attracting people from all different walks of life and religions, because everyone's affected by the Islamisation. Everyone's affected by Islamism, by terrorism, by extremism, by our culture being eroded. Everyone wants something done. Obviously, I started this organisation. I'm just a working class lad, just a normal lad from a normal town. I'm from Luton. I'm not educated in a way to be a politician in any way, but we know our place. I know my place. We're the bottom of the food chain. We want Middle England to wake up, hear our voices, hear our concerns. Please do something about the way we're living and where we're living and the effect that Islam is having on us. That's all we want. Yeah. So I don't obviously, but if nothing does come of it, I believe that an anti-Islamism organisation will spring to the forefront. Whether it's ours or not, we'll see what happens with it. We'll see where we go. But we're gaining support. As I said, with regards to online support, we'll overtake Lib Dems, Labour and Conservatives by the end of this year with membership on online. Because we're speaking on behalf of everyone. When I say everyone, we're speaking on behalf of every single working class community in this country.
How different are you, Tommy, to the British National Party, for example?
We're complete opposites of the British National Party. But the difference is, a lot of the people who would have joined the BNP with regards to members, the members that would have joined them wouldn't necessarily have been racist. They'd have been desperate. When you're drowning, you clutch at straws. That's it. That's what happens. And a lot of people in these towns and cities feel like they're drowning, so they're clutching at whatever they could. But the core leadership of the British National Party is racist. They are fascist. Nick Griffin's a wrong un, and he's a completely wrong un in my eyes. And we are the opposite to him. I don't stand by him. Not when I've grown up in a multicultural town like Luton, and half my best mates are black. I know there's good and bad in everything, but the problems that are coming out in most of our communities are rooted to Islam. and the Islamic community, and they're the ones we need tackling. And we need a fair and open debate where people aren't scared. And that's the difference. I'm coming out and saying it. Our members coming out and saying it. That's because I haven't got a job to lose, mate. I don't need no one's votes. It doesn't matter to me. I'm saying it for the love of my country, for the love of my future generations of youth. That's why we're saying it. With politicians, they're bound over. Even all the ones in major political parties, they're so treading on eggshells about what they say in case they offend certain people. But these things need saying.
I'd just like to ask you that, Tommy, because I'm very grateful for you joining us, because it's very hard to get people from the English Defence League to talk on phone-in programmes like this one. I think people are genuinely confused about what you stand for.
They're not genuinely confused. That's propagated by the media. Well, that's a distortion of our truth.
Okay.
Anyone who looks at our organisation properly, joins our forums, not on Facebook, joins our forums on our website, comes to demonstrations. Every one of our members say, well, when I first heard about you guys, I thought you were racist. I've been told this, I've been told that.
That's my point, Tommy. You're here now, so it's worth you telling my listeners, because I think I'm just giving you information that they give to me. They are genuinely confused about what the EDL is. What are you? What do you stand for, Tommy?
We're a human rights organisation. We want our human rights to be listened to, not just asylum seekers, not just extremist Muslims, not just terrorists. Our human rights. We want a complete close down of Sharia law in this country. We've got 100 Sharia law courts operating now in Britain. We want an end to them. I know they're building one in Cardiff. You're from This Is Wales. We tried to come and demonstrate over that issue, but again, the propaganda against us tells people we're Nazis, we're fascists, we're racist. We're not. We hate Nazism and Islamism are opposite sides of the same coin. They're identical. They're just one's now hiding behind a religion to do it, and it needs stopping. So that's what we want to stop, and we want to defend our culture and our way of life, and be proud to be who we are. Like they've stopped all education in most of the schools around here. Anything to do with Britain, part of national curriculum where I come from is all the children have to visit the mosque. I don't agree with Islam. I don't fundamentally agree with it. I don't want my children to visit it, because every time we see an expose on anything to do with major mainstream mosques like Birmingham Central Mosque, East London Mosque, these two mosques are meant to be the beacons of moderation mosques. Each time we see them, there's homophobia being preached in them, there's Sharia law being taught, there's anti-British, anti-democracy, all these things are being taught, and no one's got control of it, and they're building more mosques by the second across the whole country, and then they can't even govern the ones they've got.
Let me introduce to you, Tommy, Professor Sir Dayan Hopkin, who's a political commentator. He joins us now. Hello, Dayan. Welcome to you.
Hello, Jason.
What are your thoughts on the English Defence League entering mainstream British politics, Dayan?
Well, I think it's very interesting that it comes at this particular time, because if you look historically, it is at times of economic distress and difficulty that very often groups of this kind come along. By the way, there are 378 registered political parties in this country. Adding yet another one, I think, may in fact pose quite a challenge for whoever's organising it. And quite a number of these, 10 in fact, are what you might call parties very similar in description, the Freedom Party, White Nationalist Party, and so on. Not suggesting that they are the same as the English Defence League, by the way. It was very intriguing to hear the way in which Tommy Robinson distances himself from other parties of that kind. However, what tends to happen is that when you do actually present yourself, and if you look at the website for the English Defence League, what you have is somebody with a mask and the St. George's flag on it. That will almost certainly attract to it people who may not be the people Tommy Robinson is referring to.
Yeah, Tommy, do you understand that that's the difficulty that some people have with the English Defence League?
I do, but then I also understand the difficulty our supporters have with regards to their jobs. Many of them have lost their jobs just for being members of the English Defence League. The picture he's on about the mask, that's myself. And I wore that mask. And I wore that mask when this organisation started, and I hid my identity for at least 12 months until I was exposed. And the reason I hid my identity is because why should I have to put my life on the line? But at the same time, we wanted to make the stand, we wanted to get it up and going, but I always knew that no one's going to listen to the working class. In my identity, hoping someone will get in contact who knows what to do with this organisation, knows what to do with this big, strong movement, and no one did. So the mask's now off. For the last week, my family have been under 24-hour-day police protection. I've had 2 Muslims have been arrested for threatening to cut my children's heads off. Do you know what I mean? So whilst we want to make a stand, these are the consequences that come with it. And this is happening to all three of our leadership. Gurmit Singh, the Sikh lad, he's been under 24-hour-day police protection. And it's because of what? This highlights the issue we're talking about. You can come out and talk about certain issues, but as soon as maybe this is why no politicians have spoken about it. Maybe they don't want their family under protection.
Tommy, we have spoken to Gurmit in the past. Do you regret then and getting rid of that mask? Do you regret going public, Tommy? Or is the cause that great to you?
No, the cause is that great to me. I regret for the sake of you come and meet my missus who regularly cries in the evenings. I regret it because of that. Do you know what I mean? I regret it for the strain it's put on my parents and just all my immediate family. But I do believe this has to happen. And when I say it has to, I'm thinking of my children's future and their children's futures in future generations to come. I believe that if we're that weak that everyone stands by and completely lets this country walk into an oblivion, which it is at the minute, people have to wake up. Islam is not compatible. It's not working. Something has to change, and we're a symptom of it. There's many different things that are coming out of it that are symptoms of it. Unless you get to the root cause of the problem, instead of trying to deal with all these symptoms, get to the root cause, tackle the root cause, and I believe the root cause is the teachings of Islam.
How did you... Sorry, Tommy, sorry to cut across you. How did you feel about Mr Cameron's speech on the weekend in suggesting that multiculturalism has failed?
Personally, I think it's unfair to say multiculturalism failed. The reason why I think it is because there's many communities that have come to this country, the West Indian community, even now the Polish community, there's many different backgrounds that have come, and they have integrated. But my parents were Irish immigrants. So, and that people have integrated into society. I think you need to change the word multiculturalism to Islam. But that's the same thing. They broaden the argument. It's like we keep seeing Asian pimping gangs. Well, that you're broadening the argument again. It's not Asian pimping gangs, it's Muslim pimping gangs. So by saying multiculturalism failed, he should have come out and said Islam has failed in this country. It's failed to integrate. It's failed. Not obviously all followers of Islam, because there are some great Muslims. I know great Muslims in Luton. I know loads of them. But fundamentally, when they're taking that religion in a 7th century barbaric form, it's going to fail. Something's got to change. And we can't keep on dealing with the symptoms, which is what we're all doing. We're all talking about these little issues. You need to get to the root cause of the problem. Someone needs to be brave enough to call a national investigation into the Quran. That's what we need. We need to see what's going on, because the hate has to be coming from somewhere. The problems have to be coming from somewhere.
Tommy, lots of people getting in touch with us. Alwyn in Cardiff says, all this talk of the EDL brings back memories of Mosley and his black shirt, so no, they won't be getting my vote if they did enter British politics. Darren in Pentra, I would vote for the EDL, definitely. They have the courage to do what others don't, although they are accused of being racist and having racist elements. Every party has their bad elements. They are only against radical Islam, says Darren. Big Ron says, why would anyone vote for the EDL when there's a perfectly serviceable Conservative party leading their cause? And Angela in Cardiff says, Wales has always been a friendly, open country to all faiths and cultures. We must respect and try to work together. So would you vote for the EDL? The English Defence League, the group against what they describe as the Islamification of Great Britain, could be about to enter British politics. The EDL has told this programme they are thinking of becoming a political party. So would you vote for the EDL? The number to call is 03700 100 110. You can email via the website. Text me 81012. Tommy Robinson, co-leader of the English Defence League, is here, as well as Professor Sir Dan Hopkin, political commentator. We'll go back to those gentlemen in just a moment. First, let's go to Eric in Bridgend, Dale in Pontypridd. Good afternoon to you, Eric. Hello to you, Dale.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. Eric, you go first, sir. Would you ever vote for the EDL?
Possibility there is a chance I might vote for them. Because, as I said before on your programme, free speech is gone from this country. Why can't I say what I want to say without any ramifications? The whole point is, if I do not like somebody or I don't like the religion, I have every right to say so. And this is my right. You talk about human rights and everything else, but where is my human right to say what I believe in and what I don't believe in? I have a lot of Muslim friends. They're not, they are Muslims, and I have a chat with them and about their religion, but as far as it goes. Islamization of this country is getting too much, really, because why should I have mosques all over the place? I mean, this is a Christian country. They can have their mosques if they want, but not all over the place. I mean, how many in Bristol? My grandchildren live in Bristol. I think I know at least 5 mosques. Well, you know, why? At the end of the street. Why? 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 Why are we giving to them all the time? Why are we giving it to them? Why we let them take over?
Why not, Eric?
Why? Why should we? Why, you know, I mean, my grandfather fought in the First World War and lost an arm, and he told me, as I told you before, that I could have free speech. I mean, I'm not a radical, but I believe in this country, Great Britain as a whole, to be a Christian country. Yeah. And they're trying to overtake. They don't like the Christians. They don't like the Jews. Well, that's their problem. Mm. They say they want to integrate, but they're not integrated. I remember, just hang on a second. I remember going down Booth Street at least 50 years ago. They were multiracial, multiculturalism. I never had any problem going down there. But if you go into a Muslim area today, they look at you and as if, what the hell are you doing here? This is my country as well as theirs. Yeah. And I should be able to go around where I want without fear of having my head cut off, my throat slit. Why? This is my point.
Do you honestly think you'll get your throat cut if you walk down Bute Street in Cardiff?
I'm not talking about Bute Street. I'm talking about a ghetto where the Muslims are. And it's been reported in the papers that white people like me, go down there and they have looked at them as if they've got 2 or 3 heads. Now, this is not right. As I said before, I should be able to walk into these places without fear because this is my country.
Mm. I was about to ask you, Eric, we have Sikh temples, we have Jewish synagogues.
I have no problem.
What's the problem with the mosque?
I have no problem with the mosque, as long as they don't take over. The whole point is they're taking over slowly. And this is what I don't like. I don't mind having a mosque, not at all. I've been in 1 or 2. And they're okay. But it's not my religion, is it?
No, okay. Dale in Pontypridd, what do you think?
No, Jace, I would not vote for the EDL. We already have the National Front, and people of that persuasion would naturally vote for them. I think that we've got far too much hatred in this country as it is, and I know that the Muslim population are not integrating as they are, but with the emergence of another extreme right-wing party would set back any integration a lot more. I can understand why the EDL has come to the fore because of radical Muslims, and when we have been bombed, organisations like this are going to come to the fore, and also human rights, and particularly the way that people like Abu Hamza and others have played the human rights card. We have allowed them to preach their hatred in this country instead of jailing them, sending them back to where they are wanted, because wanted they are, because those people are murderers. And if we as a government had stepped in on the extremists, and maybe you were normal Muslims, who I know a lot and are very nice people, I pointed out these people a lot earlier, the EDF and other organisations would not have come to the fore.
Do you understand, Dale, how Eric is feeling? He says, this is my country.
Well, yes, it's all our country. My father died fighting fascism. My father-in-law spent 5 years in a German prisoner of war camp, and they did it so I could come on the radio and have free speech. I understand how Eric is feeling, and there is a lot of feeling with people who think that the pendulum has swung too far towards the Muslims. Whether that's right or whether that's wrong, I'm not sure, because I don't live in a heavily populated Muslim area, but I can understand how they are feeling.
Okay, Eric and Dale, thank you very much indeed. Diane, I just want to bring you in here after I read this text out, because Eric obviously says, I would consider voting for the English Defence League. if I read their manifesto, if they entered British politics. Listen to this. This is just coming from Mark in Cross Hands on the text. This bloke speaks a lot of sense. He's talking about Tommy Robinson. Tommy, you're still with me, aren't you? If the Muslim people had their way, they would change us all. Why should they be allowed to do this? We would never be able to build a church in their country, so why should they be allowed to do it here? There is a little bit of sympathy coming through for Tommy and the cause. Diane.
Well, this is a single issue, isn't it? And I think the EDF have already said that it's a single issue that they are focusing on. And by the way, there is no great history of successful campaigns by single issue parties over the long period of time. I think the real issue here is about the complexity of the society we live in. Yes, of course, people feel threatened when something happens which they don't entirely understand, which seems to be intruding on their way of life. And of course, as I said earlier, at a time of economic pressure, people without jobs, people looking for solutions, you turn and you say, why are they getting a better deal than we are? And all of this is part of that morass of economic difficulty. By the way, this isn't new in our history. There's a building in Brick Lane, which I often used to walk past. I used to work in an area which was heavily populated by Muslims. It was a Huguenot church. Then it became a synagogue. Now it's a mosque. At each stage, the people who had that church were being persecuted. And I think this is the difficulty. Every wave of new people arrive in this country, they are held responsible for the problems which actually they do not generate. Within the Muslim community, Islamic community too, there is a huge debate going on. And the debate there is even more vigorous than outside because it's about the direction they want to go. And there's a massive debate. And the danger of focusing on them as an entirety and saying, well, it's all to do with Muslims, all to do with mosques, is the danger of radicalizing young people who could, in fact, become part of an integrated Britain.
Tommy, let me ask you before I go to Matthew in Cardiff. Given that people are genuinely confused by the state of British politics at the moment, does this country need a party that's not afraid to say things which is unpopular?
It desperately needs one. If you look across Europe and you look at Holland, the next politician, the next Prime Minister to become Holland is an anti-Islam party. If you look at Austria, 28% of the votes. If you look at Switzerland, they've banned the minarets. Across the whole of Europe, the tide has changed, where people want to be free. We want our rights. And it's driving people to form anti-Islamic organisations, because Islam, like Sharia law, in the year 2003, the European Court of Human Rights done an in-depth investigation, and they found that it was incompatible with Western democracy and freedoms, and they outlawed it, and it was incompatible due to their views on women, homosexuals and infidels. That's every single one of us non-Muslims. Now, if Sharia law is the fundamental part of Islam, of the Quran, and it's incompatible with Western democracy. It's there, it's a law. And by talking about economic hardships and the current climate, that's got nothing to do with this. And I see that most of the people that will come out and comment against the EDL won't live in a town or city like Luton. They won't live in a heavily populated. And people say you have experts coming on and talking and politicians coming on and talking. And I say, I'm sorry, but I'm more educated to tell any of you about Islam growing up where I've grown up than you have being educated at Oxford University. Okay, because you've been educated in it and you've read books on it. We've lived it. We've breathed it. We're here, mate. We're growing up in these towns and cities. So we are more educated to tell people what's going on. And that's the problem we've got. Our politicians don't understand. All the people talking on behalf of us, they don't understand, because they go back to their houses in their country suburbs and they don't know what's going on in these towns and cities. And they're out of touch with it, completely out of touch with it. And that's why the feeling across the country, and the scary thing for us is, if you look at Islamic demographics, they're having 5.6 children on average. We're having 1.4 on average. The next 20 years is going to be an explosion in the size of the Islamic communities. And that would not be a problem if they were integrating, if they weren't promoting Sharia law, if they weren't promoting extremism and terrorism. It wouldn't be a problem if they weren't promoting homophobia, homophobic attacks weren't going on. If all the things that our freedoms stand for weren't being eroded, it wouldn't be a problem. But there is a big problem, and demographics are going to rise, and the problem's going to get worse, and it needs to be tackled now, why there are only 3 or 4 million Muslims in this country. We need to tackle it. We need to really try and make them integrate. We need to really try and stop Sharia law. And as I said, for common people to be the people having to come out and say this, it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs for our political system.
Right.
Because
Let's go to Matthew in Cardiff. I think Matthew wants to have his say. Hello, Matthew.
Good morning to you, Jason.
Hi, how are you? You well?
Yes, very good.
Would you vote for the English Defence League? You've heard Tommy Robinson?
Oh, definitely. I was devastated when I went into my local polling booth and couldn't vote BNP. They said they didn't have a BNP representative in Cardiff, in South Wales, so we couldn't vote for. You couldn't vote for them. I was devastated. I think we're being taken over. I think the majority of you can't turn around and say tar Muslims all with the same brush, because they're not. Some of them are very nice people. I'd just like to quote two small examples to you. One, Cruish Road Bridge. The traffic on there on a Friday is absolutely rammed manic. It's double yellow lines on both sides. There's a bus lane. I complained to outside the police station to all the cars and the Muslims outside, and they said, "Oh, listen, we can't buck them all for being on double yellows." They said there'd be uproar. Now, if I parked there and 20 other white people parked there, we'd get a ticket. But because there was uproar, because they're in the mosque and they're praying, oh, sorry, we can't give them all a ticket. There'd be uproar. No, the yellow lines are there for a reason. And I think it's shocking. We're being taken over, absolutely taken over.
So you would consider voting for the EDL if they fulfilled their political ambitions?
I distribute leaflets. I'd help them in any way I could. Too right. We're being taken over, Jason. The majority of Muslims are very good. They're respectful, helpful, polite, good people. I've got neighbours that are Muslims, and I've taught, and they say to me, "Well, I can understand where you come from." It's absolutely shocking the way that there's a smaller amount of them behave. Your last call was on about Bute Street, walking down Bute Street. I got a friend who lives in Loudon Square Flats, Neville, and I turn around and say to him, "Listen," I phone him and say, "Listen, when I'm coming down, I'll pick you up. I'll phone you to tell you on my way. I'm 39 years of age, 5'11" and 20 stone, and that's not 20 stone of fat either, Jason. And I wouldn't walk down there in the lights, let alone in the day. You feel intimidated. I drive down there, and you see crowds of them and bunches of them walking over, trying to see what's in your car, and God knows what. I feel that if they get in, they'd get my votes, and a lot of friends and families votes too.
Yeah.
I was absolutely devastated.
It's quite a widespread feeling then amongst your friends, then, is it, Matthew?
Friends and family, the most common people. But another little example, then, when a policeman stops you and gives you a producer, and I got a family in the police force, quite high up in the police force too. When they stop you, they had to change. But South Wales Police had to change the producer. So if they stop you and say, "Can you produce your documents to the local police station?" they're not allowed to call you, "Are you white and British?" anymore. It's white and European. And they've got to say that now, because the guidelines from the Home Office told them that it's offensive to Muslims and other people to be called British. You're not allowed. The police aren't allowed. And if you with the council, you fill in a council form, anything like that is now white and European. You're not allowed to call yourself British because it can be classed as offensive. That is shocking, absolutely shocking. We're being taken over. We can't have it. I remember when Simon Cowell was on the TV not so long ago. He said, "We're proud to be British." You're not allowed to say it anymore. There was uproar in the national newspapers to say he was racist. No, he's proud to be British, and he wants to fly the British flag. Britain's got talent. Well, we're being taken over, Jason, and it's wrong for the normal man like me or you or my neighbours or friends and family. We shouldn't have to come out, but the MPs won't come out and say it for us because they're too afraid of being called a racist and having it slammed back down their neck. It's wrong. It's shocking. They're there to do a job for us.
And you're not worried, Matthew, that some people might misinterpret what you're saying, and even though these are your beliefs, this is how you feel, and you feel as if Cardiff and Wales has changed, people might not label you a racist. You're not worried about that?
No, I'm not a racist. I support a local school with blacks. I don't think it matters whether you're black, white, green, or yellow. It doesn't matter what colour skin you are. We're all the same. We're all human. We all eat. We all go to the loo. We're all the same. But when we're being taken over by a small minority of people who want to take over and cause trouble and get away with it left, right, and centre and claim off the state and do everything else they want to do, I think it's morally wrong. And I've got friends who are Muslims. I've got neighbours that are Muslims, and they know exactly how I feel. They're good friends of mine. I was shopping in London. I bought them back a cream cake from Harrods, box of 4 cream cakes for their family. Their family welcome in my home. I'm welcome in theirs. we'd gone very well. But that don't mean to say I'm a racist. I got feelings which I think a lot of people have got, and a lot of people are too afraid to admit it too.
Yeah.
That we are being taken over.
Matthew, thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. This is from Dave in Newport. He says, I would vote for somebody who's got a mouth, they can use it and they can back it up. This is from John on Twitter. Don't vote for the EDL, but the government has to listen hard to the concerns of the average white citizen. Immigration has gone mad. And April on the text says, great topic. This is a great show. Yes, I would vote for the EDL. Freedom of speech. Many thanks. 12:34. Yes, good morning, Wales. Every morning here on BBC Radio Wales. This is the phone-in. The English Defence League, the group against what they describe as the Islamification of Great Britain, could be about to enter mainstream British politics. The EDL has told this programme they are thinking of becoming a political party. So would you vote for the EDL? The number to call is 03700 100 110. It's your call. You can also email via the website. You can text me 81012. Send me a tweet via Twitter at Jason Phonin. Tommy Robinson, co-leader of the English Defence League, is here alongside Professor Sir Dayan Hopkin, political commentator. And let's now talk to Mona Bayoumi, who's a Muslim barrister in Cardiff. Mona, hello, good afternoon to you, welcome.
Good afternoon.
What do you think of the EDL possibly entering mainstream British politics?
Well, I have to say, it's certainly a worrying thing to hear. It's all well and good for political groups to have fair representation and to have an opportunity to say what they believe. But bear in mind that this is a group of essentially sort of individuals from various different backgrounds with one sole purpose, and that is to ensure that the Quran is banned from the United Kingdom and that Muslims are, in the way they describe, properly integrated into British society. It's not really a political group as such, as far as I'm concerned. It is simply a group of people with an individual belief. And that belief seems to be against British values, against the political system that we have at the moment, and against what the British government has always endorsed as individuals' human rights. We have freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of religion. Now, it can't be the case that a group like this are permitted to put forward their views, that essentially mean that an entire ethnic minority group is to be banned from the United Kingdom.
But Mona, Tommy Robinson, who's here on the programme, has said earlier that he feels alienated by the British political system.
Well, you'll have to forgive me because I haven't actually had the opportunity to listen in on the program. I've only joined sort of in the past couple of seconds, really. So I'm afraid I didn't hear firsthand what he said.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, Tommy's still here. So Tommy, you can explain to Mona how you feel about the British political system.
Well, first of all, I don't want the Quran banned. Okay, I want it to evolve. I want it to evolve in the same way all the other religions have. I think that there's certain things in there that can be taken out of context, which need changing. They need taken out. Some of them hatred verses that are in there need to be taken out, or not. If they're not taken out, they need to have in brackets, this is no longer a teaching of British Islam. Because when we go abroad and look at Islam, we look at most of the people funding the mosques at the minute over here are Saudi Arabia, the Wahhabi form of Islam. Now, you can't even get past the airport of the Bible in these countries. You're not even allowed the Bible. You've got human rights atrocities going on, and the form of Islam that's being taught in this country is exactly the same as in that country. So we're going to have a problem. We've got blasphemy laws where they want to kill anyone who says anything against their religion. That's the same people. So 90% of the imams in this country can't speak English. 97% of them are educated abroad. Means they're educated in foreign forms of Islam. We need British Muslims to decide what the British form of Islam is. It's not for us to do, but we're hoping that we are putting pressure. Yeah, as you've said, the biggest discussion at the minute is in the Islamic community. Let's hope they come out and they agree that something has to change. And we don't want Muslims banished from this country. We don't want that. We welcome integration. We welcome immigration at a limited number, as long as it does do that and it brings benefits to this country. And the form of Islam that's being taught in this country, I don't see it bringing any benefits at the minute.
Mona.
Well, forgive me, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by British Islam, because or that it should be to change along the same lines as other religions. It's not for me to comment on what other religions are and how they've changed. But the whole purpose of Islam and the Quran is that it's not something that any man has written. That is the word of God, and that it is timeless. It has never changed, and there's no such thing as British Islam or Arab Islam or Egyptian Islam or Pakistani Islam. What perhaps if what you're referring to is that you are concerned that there are individuals within the Muslim community who take verses out of context and use it for their own purposes in order to justify extremist acts, well, then I agree with you, Tony, that measures should be taken to ensure that extremist views are curtailed, and we have anti-terrorism laws to deal with that. But to suggest that we should have an edited version of the Quran that takes out anything, as you say, I'm not even sure if you've read the Quran, but to suggest that an edited version of the Quran to take out verses, as you say, there aren't compatible with British views. I'm not entirely sure where you go with that, really, because it's not for anyone to interfere with a religious text. It is certainly for the government to take measures to ensure the community is kept safe and society is kept safe. That's an entirely different issue. I don't know what you mean by saying that there are countries that you can't go past security with a Bible, because I've visited a number of Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia. There is no such thing as saying that a religious text is banned, because in fact in Saudi Arabia and in all Islamic countries we actually respect and are aware and believe that the Bible, the Torah in respect of Judaism, are also texts of God. We believe in them, they're referred to in the Quran, and they are certainly not banned in any way, shape or form.
Okay, well, as you've said, the Quran has not changed in 1400 years, yeah? That's where the problem comes from, because the Bible has, the Old Testament and the New Testament, to fit in, to integrate, because Christians used to run around the world killing people in the name of the Bible. They don't anymore because it's all been taken out of it. And it's been evolved and it's changed. And that's what I'm saying. And when you say, I haven't read the Quran, certain verses in the Quran, like never take a Jew or Christian as your friend, lay in wait ready to ambush them. What's that about? Cut off their noses to the front of their faces, look like the back of their neck. All these different things. When you say take them out of context, there's only certain ways you can take. Do not take Jews or Christians as your friends. Lay in wait, ready to ambush them. That cannot be taken out of context. That's what it says.
The last time, can I just say, Tom?
Respect all religions, and that we have our religion and you have ours.
Mona and Tommy.
Mona
and Tommy, can I just say, the last time we discussed the Quran at length with the English Defence League and somebody who was defending Islam, it descended into a huge row and we couldn't hear any of the arguments. So please, let's leave that to one side for a second, because I've got lots of people who want to have their say. So let me go to Glenn in Pontypridd, and then Tommy, Diane and Mona. I'll come back to you in just a second. Glenn in Pontypridd, good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Would you ever vote for the EDL if they decided to enter the British system?
Definitely not. I was proud to be in Cardiff the day the English Defence League came, to stand alongside other people in Cardiff who made it clear that the EDL were not welcome in our town.
Okay, so what do you think the EDL stand for, Glenn?
I think they stand for division. And hey, I agree with Tommy on one thing, and that was that people feel alienated from politics. And I think that's not because of Muslims or any other ethnic group. I think that's because of the policies of the government of making ordinary people pay for the recession while the rich get away with it. And Tommy's using that anger to blame a minority of people. I find it laughable to say you've got a minority of people trying to take over. By the very nature of being a minority, they're not in a position to do that. I've spent most of my life around a mixture of people. The school I went to had various different ethnic origins, and there was no tension at all. The only reason you find Muslims not integrating into society these days is precisely because you've got groups like the EDL, like the BNP, painting them as different, painting them as evil. And of course, if you're in a group that's being painted as different and evil, then of course you find it difficult to integrate with people.
I'm getting lots of text though, Glenn, I have to say. Lots of text. I've got 5 in front of me. Answering that question in a positive manner. Would you vote for the EDL? Yes, I would. This is Jim in Exeter. I've been concerned about the growth and advance of militant Islam for the last 15 years. I would vote for the EDL. Our politicians are spineless. Well done, Tommy, says Kevin in Cwmbran. Believe me, there are lots of soldiers and ex-soldiers backing your cause. We are now second-class citizens in our own country. This is just a flavour of them, Glenn. This is another one.
Surprised by that.
This is another one. Hang on, one second.
One second.
Would
oppose.
Let me read
exactly
this.
What Tommy said. I think the evidence of what happened in Cardiff when the EDL were outnumbered by probably 10 to 1 shows that the majority of people oppose their ideas. But the significant thing is when you've got newspapers like The Sun portraying Muslims as different or as evil and as immigrants taking our jobs, then of course that kind of feeling is going to arise. And let's not forget that the newspapers like The Sun are owned by the same people who are benefiting from this current recession, the rich who are being given tax breaks and everything under the guise of stimulating the economy, while ordinary people are being made to pay. And so those very newspapers have an interest in creating this divide and division because, things like the EDL, they distract us from the real problems, who the real enemy is, that the people who are cutting our services, and pushing it on to ordinary working class people who just happen to follow a different religion.
Well, Glenn, seeing as you said that you were present at that demonstration in Cardiff, it's right and proper that I bring Tommy back in. Tommy, did you come to Cardiff, Tommy?
Because we actually travelled to Cardiff to stand shoulder to shoulder with our Welsh brothers and sisters against the building of a Sharia court in Cardiff city centre. So if Glenn supports Sharia courts, which it sounds like he does, then I'm glad he come out and showed his feelings towards Sharia law, that he's supportive of it. We don't want Sharia law. I guarantee you, all the people in Cardiff who were lied to about what we were about weren't even told why we were coming. If they knew the true facts that we were coming to oppose a Sharia law court, a massive Sharia law court in Cardiff city centre that's been given planning, they'd have been there supporting us. They'd have been there opposing it. Because Wales does not need Sharia law. Welsh people do not need Sharia law. They need British law, because we've had it for years and we love it, and we don't need something that is incompatible with our system because of their views on homosexuals, women and us. And Glenn says he's come out, everything Glenn says, I don't think Glenn understands what the English Defence League are about, and he says he come out in 10 to 1. When we were trying to kickstart the Welsh Defence League, although unfortunately it was hijacked by some scumbags from Swansea who were Nazis. We had to close it down because a group of them got on board, and we had to shut it down. And it's sad for the Welsh people, because the Welsh people need the voice as well, which we're happy to. We still have many Welsh people come with us. We have Welsh people within our leadership, but we just come under the banner EDL because it was hijacked by a load of scumbag wrong'uns. So, as I said, I think the people from Wales listening to this radio show will support us. They would have wanted to support us in Cardiff against the building of Sharia law court.
Rob on the text says, Jace, I haven't voted in the last 3 elections, but if the EDL stand for election, I will vote for them next time. I'm just a normal working class man struggling to make a living. I don't have an ounce of racist blood in my body. The EDL representative Tommy Robinson on your programme speaks a lot of sense. He's a breath of fresh air. Sheila says, hello Jason, good on Tommy. We need someone to speak up for us. The government is frightened to offend any other countries. Glenn in Pontypridd, thank you. I'll go to Edmund in just a second. Diane, can I just bring you in here, given that you're a political commentator? Rob's text is very interesting, isn't it? He hasn't voted in the last 3 elections. Political commentators like yourself and many others very often discuss why people don't turn out at election time. Interesting that he says, I will vote for them next time if the EDL stand for election.
It's a very interesting phenomenon. I think the word alienation has been running through your program. I think a lot of people, and there's no doubt there is a warning sign here for politicians who say, look, there are a lot of people who don't feel engaged in the political process. They are worried, they are concerned. And one of the issues, of course, is this one. However, of course, you can't, and if I may say so, you can't construct an entire political party on a simple proposition of that kind. There has to be much, much more to it. And the danger, of course, is, and we did hear one of your listeners phoning in saying that you'd vote for the EDL because you discussed it. He couldn't vote for the BNP last time. Well, here's the problem, isn't it? Because at the very beginning of the program, Tommy quite rightly said, we distance ourselves from the BNP. But inevitably, what you do is create an umbrella in which all sorts of people will come in for their particular reasons. And that is, of course, a problem for the EDL itself.
Howell says there must be a demand in Bristol for mosques, hence there are 5+ there. To limit the number of mosques would amount to segregation. That would not help integration in any way. I'm a Christian. I have many wonderful Muslim friends, says Howell. Edmund, good afternoon to you.
Hi.
Hi. Would you ever vote for the EDL if they decided to enter mainstream British politics?
Good heavens, no.
Why not?
Well, they're paranoid maniacs who don't have a clue what they're talking about. Mr. Robinson has just claimed that the Bible was changed recently, which is entirely untrue. They're saying horrible things about Muslims. I live not too far from a mosque, from Shah Jamal and Cruise Road, and it's never caused any trouble. And I'm a student at Cardiff University, where we've got a couple of thousand Muslim students, and there is no trouble whatsoever. In fact, British research and British science absolutely fall apart if you clamp down on immigration. Britain relies on free exchange of ideas, open dialogue, an open cultural policy, and furthermore, we need people coming in from South Asia, from North America, and from all over the world, just to maintain the higher education system we have.
Why are so many people, Edmund, contacting this programme saying they support what Tommy has said, and good on Tommy for coming on the radio and speaking about something he believes passionately about?
Well, the EDL are very good at mobilizing online, and these people have nothing better to do than sit around on their computers and call in radio shows. What I want to know is if they think they're a serious political party, or that they're going to be, where are these people when there are potholes in the streets? You know, where are these people when the country is shut down by snowfall? They have no program. They have no idea about politics. All they have is rage, anger, and paranoia.
You are a single-issue group, Tommy Robinson, and are you based on rage, anger, and paranoia, as Edmund says?
I have no rage, I have no anger, and I have no paranoia. I have proudness to be British, and I have a really concerned worry for my kids' future. Really concerned. That's what this is about. This is about future generations to come. In the 1930s, whole generations gave their lives to protect the future for British people. Now, we must stand up. We must protect the future for our kids. We can't sit back and be cowards because we're too scared of being called a racist. Do you know how many times I've been called a racist? Do you know how many friends I've lost because of the English Defence League? Do you know how many family members I've lost because of the English Defence League? And it's because I'm right. And you can hear it from your viewers. We're right. And we don't care if, for too long now, the government, the Labour-controlled government, which were in bed with Islam, in bed for their votes, in bed for their Saudi money, have beat us down with the racist stick, have scared us into silence. And now we're standing up, and that's why their people are worried. These leftist people, like the man who's just speaking there, they're worried. They're worried because they know the tide has turned. They know people are no longer sitting back. People are standing up and saying how they feel. We've allowed Islamism, when I say Islamism, I mean the political wing of Islam, to take a grip of this country in towns and cities. Now, people say, 30 years ago in Luton, there was 3,000 Muslims in one mosque. Now, 19 mosques, 30 to 40,000 Muslims. What do you think the next 30 years holds for my town? It's going to be 100 mosques. It's going to be 100,000 Muslims. So that's what, and it's inevitable because of Islamic demographics. It's inevitable because of the birth rate. And they're not integrating. And for people to come on and say they're not integrating because of groups like the EDL, we've been established 2 years. Muslim immigrants have been here for 20, 30, 40 years. They haven't integrated. It's got nothing to do with us. And I can't believe we're now getting blamed for their non-integration. We get blamed for their terrorism, their extremism. It's nothing to do with us. It's not our fault.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, Tommy, about, I was watching the BBC online earlier, and at the demonstration in Luton on Saturday, there was an interview with a chap named Abdul Salam, who's a Glasgow man. He's got a very strong Glaswegian accent, says he's a Muslim, argues that more Muslims should take the same stand, and many people might be thinking now that this was a man who was against your protest, but he was actually draped in a Union Jack flag supporting the EDL.
A proud British patriot. And you see Islam, the form of Islam that's being breeded in this country is the Wahhabi form. And I go to the gym with another Muslim, a great fellow he is, yeah? And he says, it's the Saudis. He gets so angry and blames it on the Saudis because they're taking over the religion. They're breeding the extremist form of Islam, the non-integration. Like the Wahhabi form of Islam, the fundamental belief in it is non-integration with Christians and Jews.
Can I just ask you about Abdul Salam? Is he welcome in your English Defence League?
He's a hero. He is a hero. He is put on people's shoulders and he is carried through our demonstrations as a true British Muslim.
Why is that? Why is he a hero?
Because that's what we we want. We want that. That's what we want. We want British Muslims to be draped in the British flag. We want them to come out and say we're proud to be British. We want them to integrate. That's what we're saying. And he is a perfect example. And they want to kill him. They want to kill him because of it. Do you know what I mean? And he says he is the true Islam, and Islam means peace, and they are the false Islam. All the other people who want to kill him. And what this will do, I understand, and I do not feel good that this may bring fear to some Muslim communities with the rise of the English Defence League. But what it will do, it will bring the moderates out. And it will bring them out to give them a voice, to say, get out of our community and deal. Like David Cameron, we don't want no pats on the back, but what David Cameron has just come out and said about Islamic immigration, about tackling it, that's because of the English Defence League. That's because of what we've been doing. The Muslim pimping gangs that have been left to roam our streets for 20 years and rape our kids have not been dealt with for 20 years because people were too scared.
Okay.
Now they're tackling it because of the English Defence League.
I need to give Mona, who hasn't said anything for the last 15, 20 minutes, an opportunity to come back in. Edmund, let me thank you. Mona, let me just bring you back in here. How do you feel about somebody like Abdul Salam, who is draped in the Union Jack flag supporting the EDL on Saturday?
Well, whether he chooses to support the English Defence League is a matter for him. In terms of his pride for being British, well, he's certainly not alone there. The vast majority of the Muslim community, contrary to public opinion, are extremely proud of being British. The majority of us, other than those who have come here seeking asylum, have chosen the United Kingdom as our country. My parents chose the UK as their intended home, and I was born here. I am extremely proud to be British. And the trouble is, it seems, just from the dialogue over the past 10, 15 minutes, is that it seems to be a mixture of issues, and things are getting muddled up. Now, we, when I say we in the Muslim community, fully endorse the fact that we live in a country where Sharia law is not part of the legal system. The opening of what's now being called a Sharia court in Cardiff it's an old topic. It's been spoken about before. It is not a court as in a court of law. It is a mediation and arbitration forum, very much similar to what the Jewish community have had for in excess of 100 years, known as the Beth Din, where parties volunteer to take part in mediation in disputes such as boundary disputes with their neighbours, such as if a couple is divorcing, how they want their assets to be divided. It is another form of mediation and arbitration. And in no way, shape or form has the Muslim community ever sought to introduce Sharia law into the United Kingdom. Right. This is simply an alternative dispute resolution mechanism.
We have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mona Bayoumi. Tommy Robinson, Professor Sir Dan Hopkin, thank you very much indeed.